The Cut, brought to you by Flo and Rare Nephew.
Now I'm where I wanna be.
Yeah, man, a Gram Smagan and always see it happen right here on CVM. Keep watching good music, Jamaican culture, food, music, vibe, sports, right here on CVM. See it happen, man. Gram Smagan said that. Blessings.
Enjoy the things that matter. Family, friends, and the keys to your home.
The time by NHT is
8 o'clock.
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music keeps on playing, and the people them I say we are my show tonight. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't put it down. Shine your lights
Is there a policy on road repair, road maintenance, and road rehabilitation? And if indeed there is such a policy, has the Jamaican government been following one? And if they have been following one, must they rip that up and seek a new policy, given the results that have accrued from the way we have been building, constructing, and repairing roads over time? It's Lead Story Prime, the series of 3 programs, climaxes today, where we speak with an expert in roadwork and road policy, urban planning and policy, and also the Minister in charge of Works, as he speaks about the progress made so far under the REACH and SPARK programs. Lead Story Prime starts now. Welcome to Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. We've been at this since Monday. We had an August panel, both days, Monday, Tuesday, and despite the panel being small, well, fewer in number on this evening, it's no less distinguished. We have, well, I'll introduce her in short order, but just to say that we took to the streets today and we visited a mechanic's shop to hear from motorists who we saw at the mechanic's shop getting repairs to damage done to their vehicles after, yes, you guessed it, falling into a pothole, and getting from the mechanics themselves a sense of the issues that they've had to be dealing with in recent weeks as more and more creatures just appear on the roadways by virtue of the degradation of the road surfaces. Watch this.
See, it's pointed to a pothole that is at Mount Alvernia Prep. That pothole is responsible for chopping several tires. I have to drive past it every morning, several times. You have another pothole, you know, Captain Baker up on halfway tree road right there, so. Yeah, that's not a pothole, that's a whole, I don't even know, sinkhole, right? 3 weeks ago, I buy my tire, so I have to turn up, boy, back at a shop again, I get it patched. This is not right, all right? Somebody need to do something about it. The alleged patching that is going on, it don't make no sense, right? The whole road needs to be fixed, right? The potholes, and may I tell you what them, Mount Alvernia, primary or prep, something like that. Run, just before you go down to where Tamworth Avenue Library is, there's another whole world of potholes right near to Captain Baker and Old Up Road, right? Forget, see them Dinner Road, Them finally doing some little patch now. Seeing if you dance all over the place again. It is ridiculous. Them need to do something about it.
The road are fixing at Jamaica right now, they're not doing anything that's so good. Them patch, them see a big hole. And then patch a big hole and then one little small hole right there. Then leave the small hole and by in 2 to 3 weeks time, the same small hole turn one big hole. Most of the time you're driving now and then sometimes you just come up on the hole, but then you have to break up. You drop in there and now come you break up your tire, you bust up your tire. Because of that happened to your tire. You see? One tire is for, the cheapest tire is for $17,000, $18,000 for one tire. So the road not fixing properly. Like so when we fixing road in Jamaica, we just wasting money. How many road fix in Jamaica? When you hold the god, you get stoned. Then could I use a river shingle and put it in there, and then after you put the river shingle, then you compress it, and then you use a little more over that, and then you can put the asphalt over it. And the asphalt what I'm putting over it now, I just 1/4 inch and then call it grease and spray. Grease and spray, so then put about 1/4 inch over that. So when you wait at the vehicle, especially the big vehicle and run on it, you find out it does sink.
See?
Because the road situation. Now the road situation is, I can't just tell you say the road mash up the wheel bearings alone. It's how the road design. Now if you design the road for as soon as the rain fall in space of like 5 minutes there is no water, then you won't have a wheel bearings problem so soon, but you will have a wheel bearings problem. So the more water the wheel bearings get in contact with, as soon as possibly it's going to go. So the road are the first thing. Then how you plan to design the road. So first and foremost, you can't blame the government, bro. The government not go up on the road, go fix the road. Or would the government pay? Now what you have to blame the government for do is to draft up them person there. Make sure it's your taxpayer money where you are pay upon the road. Work upon the road, spend properly.
Well, this is cause of a pothole. For you see, you can know say the customer hit a pothole and it cause a puncture to it. I mean, every day something. Every day we got send come, we have one of them to fix. Every day. Truck, tractor tire, bike, bicycle, everything we fix. You name it, we fix it.
The reason why
if it has a wheel and it is mechanized that you can drive it, then chances are you'd have had to visit a mechanic's shop to have that wheel repaired, given the state of Jamaica's roads. We are, maybe about 3 minutes from the break, but I'm going to take the liberty of introducing my first guest. She's Professor Carol Archer, Professor of Urban Planning and Public Policy at the University of Technology. And she's here to talk to me about roadwork policy. Just a general comment, Professor. I've heard people say, people of longer vintage than myself, and of course yourself as well, say, I don't want to say old people, say that they've never seen the roads collectively so bad. Give me your experience.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I've been victim of potholes. Yes. I think they just show up overnight in some instance. But when we look at it, we have to take a broader view. The road and the road repair is one, but from an urban planning perspective, there's a subdiscipline of urban planning, transportation planning. And when we think of transportation planning, we think of, how we use the land for moving goods, service, people. Yes? So the road network is essential. Yes. The types of vehicle traversing the road network, the management, the maintenance of this. And that is governed by policies. The government decide how it's going to act on or deal with. Then there's the legislation, of course there's funding, and of course we need the data to inform all those decisions. How do we treat with? Yes. Now, what I think has been missing is that we have not done the proper analysis to say, this is how we are going to maintain this section of the road network, given the development that is taking place, given the climate change impact, because that is real.
Well, I want to stick the pin right there. Let me take the first bit, because I'm happy you brought the climate change up, because when the Prime Minister said it, he was laughed out of town, because people said, you could never be suggesting that climate change has contributed to the degradation of the road surfaces. I want you to make sense of what was said about climate change and how it affects the situation concerning roads in any country. More after the break. This is Lead Story Prime.
Thanks to my Prime Minister for this opportunity. For me to be a homeholder.
I was living in a terrible condition for so many years. Thank you again.
We just try to make life goes on with the little that we have.
It is the aspiration of the government. It is what the government tries to do every day, to lift people out of poverty into a decent life. The new social housing program is a key component of the social safety net.
As I've always said, this is probably one of the most fulfilling programs for me, because you literally see the transformation of people's lives.
Every dream conquered is another dream gained. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction, 'cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard, and the music hits I play, and the people them I say we are my showdown. Oh, what a feeling! Don't stop dreaming. Keep on believing in the power of the feeling. Whatever you want, take a chance. Song in your heart, step in your dance. You got a spark, don't fit it down. Shine your lights on.
The reason why I'm fixing this wheel bearings is because the road situation. Now the road situation is, I can't just tell you say the road mash up the wheel bearings alone. It's how the road design. Now if you design the road for as soon as the rain fall in space of like 5 minutes there is no water, then you won't have a wheel bearings problem so soon, but you will have a wheel bearings problem. So the more water the wheel bearings get in contact with, as soon as possible it's going to go. So the road are the first thing, then how you plan to design the road. So first and foremost, you can't blame the government, bro. The government no go pan.
A mechanic there, the expert, telling you what he assesses the problem to be largely where wheel bearings are concerned, and how most people find themselves in wheel bearing problems, and then the pothole problem compounds a weakened wheel bearing, and then you're going to have to spend a lot of time with the car. Well, the car is going to have to spend a lot of time in his shop. Professor Carla Archer is with me. She's Professor of Urban Planning and Public Policy at the University of Technology. I say this to you before we resume the conversation, that even racetracks as constructed in parts of the world where they get heavy rainfall, like in the UK, Epsom Downs, in Limerick, Musselburgh, wherever in Scotland, Wales, or across the United Kingdom. Racetracks, because it's a surface that horses run on, they want to preserve the integrity of it. So what do they do, Professor Archer? They build it with a camber. So it tilts slightly, usually towards the rail. For when it rains, the water runs there, so it doesn't settle and disrupt or affect the integrity of the surface. And it seems just commonsensical that if you're building roadways, you won't make it as flat as a billiard table, but you'll build it with some camber or some tilt to cause the water to run off and not settle and eat away at the material that you used to construct the road.
That is part of the transportation planning process. What is it the road is intended to do? Is it going to be for cycling, for walking, and then design? But you just don't design, you have to design for the future, right? So back to the issue of the climate change impact. As I indicated elsewhere, we would have known from our scientists, local and international, from as far back as 20 years ago, that this is a problem. We have increased intensity rainfall, which means increased volume of runoffs. Yes?
Yes.
Now, when we have efficient and effective policy, that information is taken into consideration in terms of making sure that roads, the road network in certain areas where you are going to, for example, increase density, that they are designed to manage not just runoff, but vehicular traffic.
Yes.
We also have to consider how we not just build, but how we maintain. So we have the construction of the road network. How do we maintain? Because you're going to have, as with any infrastructure, wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to ensure that it is maintained, it is managed.
Mm-hmm.
With that, the allocation of funds to maintain, to manage, to design. So we would have had the data as it relates to climate change impact. Right here in Kingston, we know the issue of heat island effects. We know the issue of intense rainfall.
Mm-hmm.
What is it then that the government is doing with that data?
Mm-hmm.
Are they changing the maintenance schedule for road repairs?
Yes.
Are they using that to inform the design?
Yes.
And I can say from what I have seen thus far, simple look at Barbican Road.
Yes.
Simply look at Consent Spring. It is very evident that the data that the scientists and other person, who would have analyzed, saying this is how you need to design to address these issues, they have not been taken into consideration.
And let me ask you, I love that. So let me just put this to bed for me. When someone says, and the Prime Minister said it, climate change has a hand to play in the road, in the integrity of the roads being damaged.
Yes.
Is he talking from the increased rainfall perspective? Is he talking about record high temperatures perspective? Is he talking about a combination of those things? Or is he talking about something else altogether?
Well, when we talk about the fact that the climate change has impacted, certainly from the planning perspective, we are cognizant of the fact that we will have increased runoffs because of the intensity of the rainfall. Yes?
Yes.
And therefore, with that data, immediately government decision ought to be that this is how we're now going to design our road. This is how we're going to direct funding to manage and repair. So yes, the data says climate change impact.
Yes.
That's clear.
Yes.
The next question is, what have you done
with this knowledge?
With this knowledge.
Yes.
Yes.
I give you an example, and I use the example to ask a question, because look at an area, Professor Archer, like Old Harbour. You would know that in 1995, we're in 2005 now, 2025 now. So in 1995, Old Harbour would have been markedly different than it is today. Because you only had Old Harbour. You had no New Harbour. You had no New Harbour Village. You had no this, that. You had Old Harbour, you had Sakaba Pen, you had Old Harbour Villas, you had Marley Mount, you had these communities there. Now, tens of thousands of Jamaicans are now living there.
Yes.
The density in the town has increased. So based on what you just outlined, one would suspect then that, okay, I should be able to look at a plan to say, okay, what changes have you made to the road network, the road design, the frequency with which you repair and maintain the roadways, now that the nature of the community has changed over the last 3 decades?
Right, and that is where the policy position comes in. Because the policy would get the data and then say, going forward for the next 5, 10, 20 years, these are the things that we will need to do. And some of the things would require legislative changes, right? So, for example, we would say...
I wanted to hold the example because the break is upon me. This is Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. Back with more after these.
Welcome to the ZZ Lottery Draw for 8:20 p.m. Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. The one-drop winning number is 34. The hat-trick winning numbers are 3, 4, 3. The four-play winning numbers are 2, 0, 2, 8. The Lucky Day Lotto winning numbers are 6, 14, 15, 11, 12. The fireball is red. Thank you for playing with Izizi.
Ho, 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 ho. CVM presents a special broadcast of the Stella Maris Dance Ensemble's Holiday Showcase on Thursday, February 13th at 9:30 p.m. Stay tuned after the cut and corner office and wind down with more entertainment and fun. See it happen on Thursday, February 13th at 9:30 p.m. only on CVM.
Welcome back to Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV, talking to Professor of Urban Planning and Public Policy at the University of Technology, Jamaica, Professor Carol Archer. And what she has been saying is that there has to be a healthy relationship between urban planning and public policy to include just how you are going to react to changes in the built environment in an area, in communities that have grown exponentially over time. There must be changes to transport considerations. You're moving goods, you're moving services, you're moving people. And so it can't be the same playbook when somewhere had 300 people doing business in and around the town as years later when there are 20,000 people doing business in the same space. Obviously, you're going to have to make some changes, or else you're going to have severe problems where transportation is concerned and the movement of goods, services, and people, and the roads are destined to be bad. Yeah. We used Old Harbour as an example, Professor Archer, because it's one of the fastest growing communities in Jamaica. And so you were saying to me that there are legislative considerations that would have to be made to accommodate for the changed nature of the community. Heavier traffic, more people, and the commute being constant. On the road surfaces.
Yes, absolutely. So, and it's not just Old Harbour. I mean, I have sympathies for my colleagues who have to traverse from as far as Mandeville to come to UTEC. In the mornings, the volume, and we have not dealt effectively with managing the volume, and it can be dealt with. So, for example, knowing that you're going to increase density, you're bringing people farther away from where they work and where they recreate and where they do business. Yes. You have to then move them to and fro. The best way, after analyzing the data, what would be the most efficient and sustainable way to do so? And in doing that analysis, you might want to, through your policy, ensure that you have access to public transportation, as opposed to reliance on private motor vehicles. Yes. You might want to move services closer to the people. There's this whole concept of walkable cities. Most cities now have moved to, when they're developing communities, when they're developing areas, it is not just creating dormitory communities where they have to. They analyze what is it that people are traveling and how are they traveling to access goods and services, and use that information to inform how they deal with the infrastructure that moves people to and fro. Yeah. How we design the infrastructure, as the mechanic, eloquently states. You design because, for example, in places like Old Harbour, where you're going to have sea level rise, you're going to have storm surge, and you need people to evacuate in a timely manner. You need to design the road network to accommodate that movement so that people are moving safely. And then, of course, you need to maintain and manage the infrastructure. How is that done?
And as we talk about fast-growing communities and the need for policy to walk in lockstep with the development in the communities, let's not forget Drax Hall, which is exploding in its commercialization and the number of people living there. And not too long from now, you're going to hear residents in Drax Hall in St. Anne say, well, oh, the roads are just cracking up. And you'll say, but what do you expect with the number of cars that are now traveling here, the number of heavy pieces of heavy equipment which are moving construction material into Drax Hall? This is where public policy would have said, okay, Drax Hall is changing. How do we act where the roads are concerned to walk in lockstep with the change?
Well, I think in that instance, what has happened is that the gate opened, the horse, the cart, and everyone went through the gate, and miles down, then the government policies and programs play catch up.
Which is the wrong way.
Which is the wrong way. But once because the truth is, we have had a transportation plan that I know they had the data, which they collected the data 2004, 2005. Lots have changed since then. I'm aware that the transportation policy is in draft and there are stages before a policy is now being implemented. I'm not sure if now that we are faced with this crisis, and the crisis is not just with the road network. The road network is one. The importation and vehicles, right? The lack of proper public transportation system, all of those have not been addressed. So we need to ensure that the policies are in place to guide that type of development. And with the policy, we need to ensure that the funding is in place.
Which is most important.
To manage and maintain the infrastructure
Let me ask
and
you,
the services.
I know from my time working in government, I did a stint at the National Environment and Planning Agency for 2 years. And what I know from that time is that the CEO of NEPA is referred to in some documents as the government town planner. All right.
Yes.
So if I look at the documents that attend to government town planning, and I would reasonably expect to see the changing face of, say, Kingston. Let's use Kingston as the example. The changing face of Kingston in terms of growing population density and the changes that have accompanied that change. Would I be expected to see, Professor Archer, the changing nature of how the road network policy has been adopted or adapted to account for the greater volume of traffic on the city streets?
Right. Well, what I do know for sure is that, like you, when I was involved in that process, that I know we brought to bear. So we would meet with the representative from the NWA, from the ministry, and we say, this is what the data is showing. Let us now use that to guide the development orders. Let's use that to guide the National Spatial Plan. So people, my colleagues know that whenever time I get the mic, I talk about the lack of this National Spatial Plan, because then it will tell us where do we have growth, or we ought to have growth given the impact of climate change, and then where do we need to ensure that the varied infrastructure, roads and such, are in place to support this type of development. So we have to take a comprehensive approach. But we have not. And we have used expediency. So, for example, in Drax Hall, we have housing development, growing leaps and bounds because some investment is going there. But the question is not being asked. Let us make sure that the infrastructure in place and then use that to guide the development. So there is not that consideration for the scientific data. And as an academic, I have serious concerns about the decision makers not being guided by the science of the data.
Excellent. Hear you on that. A gap between the policy and the development. Not gaps in the policy, but the policy and the development are almost at war. And that's the point that Professor Carol Archer made today on the show. We take a break here on Lead Story Prime on CVM TV. Back with more after these.
save so you can live your best life. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. The time by Jane Bank is
8:30.
Excuse me, that looks delicious. Where did you get that pizza?
Pizza, please. Best pizza in town.
Pizza Please, the widest variety of pizzas in Jamaica. Grab a slice or order a whole pie. Find us at 4 locations across Kingston and Ocho Rios and at pizzapleaseja.com. Pizza Please, Italian pizzas, Jamaican flavors.
I'm Jamaican.
You are Jamaican. We are Jamaican. And the national budget is our business because it impacts every Jamaican. From healthcare to education
To the road conditions.
to security for my family. The national budget is my business.
No, sister. It is our business. The national budget is everybody's business because it impacts every Jamaican. Visit the Ministry of Finance's website at mof.gov.jm for more information.
So me just want to tell them, say, Simmer, who got the keys to the bimmer? Oh my, real reggae lover, Zaga.
Welcome back to Lead Story Prime here on CVM TV. So, also on the road, we spent some time in the company of a contractor on the Spark program to see how artificial intelligence, or what role artificial intelligence is playing in the rehabilitation, repair, and construction of roads in Jamaica.
The need for changes in systems for roadwork is more than necessary. Both the central and the local government have seemingly missed the mark or have not found the formula in previous years for roadwork that works. Whether it is bad practice in the awarding of contracts or lack of oversight, the issues and plenty but solutions are warranted. One such solution, seemingly showing promise, is the use of artificial intelligence in roadwork. We spoke to a couple of experts on the front lines doing work in Jamaica to see how they are incorporating technology in their roadwork. The CEAC team is one of the contractors under the government's new Spark program, and we sat in one of their sessions to see how they use the developments in technology. The team is focusing on roadwork under the Spark program on Arnold Road.
Arnold Road is one of the roads that needs to be worked on. It has quite a few defects, and as a part of the package, which has a lot of roads, we had to find a way to efficiently identify the defects that need to be addressed.
As we will soon learn, the AI technology is able to track potholes on the road and even diagnose the engineering defects.
To do so, we've used Road AI software, which allows us to quickly identify the defects, classify the roads, and the condition of the roads themselves.
The engineer, admittedly excited to share the technology, showed the Lead Story team how they use the technology in their work.
The AI picks up the condition of the road, as well as the sidewalks, the center line of the road. As I play the video, you will also see where it identifies, I'll pause it right here, you can see where it identifies the different defects within the segment of road. So you can see here this green mark, which is a pothole, right? You can also see where it's identifying the sidewalks, as I mentioned before, the road center line. Let me move a little bit further down. What you also notice is that it blocks out the vehicles and the persons that are passing, because that may raise privacy concerns. Let me pause right here. So while that image loads, right, so you can see the different defects identified within the road segment, potholes, fretting, rotting.
So what were some of the issues spotted with technology?
Right. As I mentioned before, potholes are quite evident, as well as the edge deterioration.
But with all new AI technologies, there are concerns about accuracy. So how accurate is it?
To be totally honest, quite accurate. I'd say within the 90% percentile, because what it uses is it uses the cell phone optics. It uses inputs from the user itself. So let's say, for instance, a classification of something like a MAR road that wouldn't necessarily be conventional in terms of international standard. We can say this is a MAR road, and going forward, this is how you will identify this type of road.
So we decided to journey to Arnold Road to see the road itself that is set for work under the Spark program. And of course, the potholes were there in all their glory. With us is Dr. Leighton Ellis, Chair of the Civil Division, Jamaica Institute of Engineers, Senior Lecturer at UA, and Managing Director of LNZ Designs and Development Company Limited.
Pothole most likely has been here for quite some time. What you also see, what tends to happen a lot is consistent overlays, and you can see here is where it may have been patchwork over some time. And this would have been another patchwork upon another patchwork. See how the traffic coming across. Coming along the sidewalk area here, you can see moisture carrying the material, and of course depositing along the sideways as well, which again suggests there's poor drainage along this area also. And you can identify that based on the variations in the elevations you're seeing.
What would the engineer prescribe for this pothole?
In this one, it's an extensive one, so then you would need to now again move everything down to most likely at least the sub-base level, and then correct the issue going forward in that sense.
Of course, sparks of hope fly as further up the road the site of roadwork was evident, which pleased many of the residents. So as we approach this attempt in a new era of roadwork technology and innovation, it will be necessary in seeing changes. However, the policy must also follow. Adrian Williams for Lead Story.
All right. So that's what the team was doing on the road earlier on this Wednesday. The Minister in charge of Works, Ramon Gordon, is with me in studio. Good evening, Minister.
Hi, good evening, George. It's good to be here.
It's good to be here. The stakeholders we've had on the show since Monday, this is the third of a three-part series, a three-part special. They've not been kind to those in charge of the roads. Almost tempted to say that they've not been kind to you, but you've not been the man in charge of the road network over an extended period, so it's unfair to put the blame all at your feet. But what they're saying is, let me get right to it. They're saying that watching the roads being repaired under reach, not spark, under reach, because the reach is where the island-wide patching is covered under. They're saying it's no wonder that we have to revisit the same stretches of road, fix the same potholes time and again, because the method of repair is faulty. They're saying that rather than dig out these squares or these rectangles, compact them with marl, then put asphaltic concrete on it, it is a fool's errand, because the marl is porous, easily dispersed by water. The asphaltic concrete, water settles on the surface, eats away through it, then it washes away the marl, and then the hole is created again. So the government is basically enabling those who are contracting doing the work to get rich at the expense of taxpayers who have to contend with a pothole that will open soon after it is patched. That's what they told me, that's what I'm putting to you.
Well, you would appreciate that I'm not an engineer. So I will never come on the program to get into an argument about engineers regarding the engineering of roads. I depend on the persons who have been fixing roads in Jamaica for decades. The issue of road repair and why our roads do not last long is not because patching is not a way to repair roads. Patching is a part. I was in overseas recently, and the person I was driving with was saying, "Oh my God, why is there so much patching in this particular state in the United States?" So patching is a technique used by road authorities to give temporary relief. I note the operative word, temporary relief. Patching is not a long-term fix. It cannot be a long-term fix. In our case, a big part of the challenge we have is that we have roads that are at the end of their life. So if you look at let's use Grandspen, for example. While we did not patch Grandspen, we milled and paved it.
Well, Grandspen in St. Thomas or St. Andrew?
St. Andrew. We milled and paved it, which is removing the top layer and putting a new layer of asphalt. It was at end of life. Additionally, in 2015, there were about 200,000 cars on the roads in Jamaica. Now, there are about 500,000. Coupled with that, since burial, between July and December of last year, you had an average of 30% more rainfall. You had a 30% more rainfall, if I'm correct. Well, you had significantly more rainfall, more than ever has happened in 30 years in Jamaica. So you have several factors that are contributing to the quality of the roads and the degradation of roads. It cannot be one factor. So, and you cannot blame patching for the challenges.
But here's why I can blame patching though, Minister. The engineers have said that those who supervise the patching are not doing right by your expectation and, of course, more importantly, what you pay, because, again, they say the sub-base and the base of the patched hole, they say that that's where the problem lies. And if an alternative material to marl is used, they talk about aggregate, the kind of aggregate, stone aggregate then. Pardon me, engineers, if I'm not saying it the right way, but I'm communicating the right thing. Stone aggregate rather than marl. They're saying if that is put into the sub-base, then the patched road will last a lot longer. And they're saying it is poor supervision, and because of the poor supervision, taxpayers are not getting value for money for the road that is patched. So the temporary fix does not last long enough for the temporary expectation of the repair. That is what they're saying.
So I'm not, as I said to you before, I'm not going to challenge the position of experts. I can only speak about what I've seen and what I've experienced since I've been minister as of June last year. So the first road I patched really as minister was a place called South Upturn to Maypen, which is in Mike Henry's constituency. That patching has stood up for the past 7 months. Interestingly, other holes have emerged on that road because the road was at end of life and the patching was to provide some temporary relief. That road is on the Spark program, the main road program, and it will be repaired. Not every road has the same geology. Not every road has the same hydrology. So I cannot sit here and say I agree with the expert that says all roads I must use what you call shingle.
Yes.
In places in my constituency, they use shingle to dig out soft spots and dump with shingle. In other areas, they use a different type of marl. They use a thing called, I don't remember if it is crack and roll or something like that, which is a more harder marl, while in another area they use others. So I have seen where the contractors and the engineers have used variations in the type of material they use. I hear a lot of persons making generalizations about the roads and what is the solutions for the roads, but very few of them have the data as to how long the patching lasts. One of the things that we have done, if you see me on the road, I have this marker thing that I have, but we mark the road with temporary spray and we take pictures because we want to see how long this patching lasts. And what we're seeing is that since we have enforced and started enforcing the standards over the last several months.
Enforcing the standards, so the standards weren't being enforced
But I can
before.
only speak about when I'll be there. There have been, and I would be dishonest if I came here and said that I have been happy with everything that I have seen.
On the point of happiness, are you happy with the quality of the supervision you have now of the work that's being done under REACH?
For the most part.
For the most part.
We had some challenges. No, it's never good enough to be for the most part. We had some challenges in the beginning. Last year, when we decided to patch roads in rain, which resulted in us losing a lot of asphalt.
That's a fool's errand. I've heard you say that yourself.
We succumbed to public pressure, right? But we learned our lesson, and the Prime Minister gave strict directions that let us go suffer through it for a bit more, and we should not patch in rain.
But don't stray me, Minister. I'm saying again, you say that you're satisfied with the supervision for the most part. My experts, you make the point that generalizations have been made about the road.
Right.
This week, I have not had any generalists on the panel. I've had experts in engineering, people who are working on Reach, on Spark as we speak. And I'm saying, they're saying to a man, supervision is a serious problem.
People who are working on Reach are saying that they have a supervision problem.
Yes, they are.
Well, you need to tell us where it is so we can fix it.
I hear you on that. We'll take a break here on Lead Story Prime. More after these.
Jamaican.
You are Jamaican. We are Jamaican. And the national budget is our business.
Protecting Jamaica's borders is a key priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. The JCA will remain vigilant and resolute in effectively fulfilling this mandate. The time brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
8:45.
I am Jamaican.
You are Jamaican. We are Jamaican. And the national budget is our business because it impacts every Jamaican. From healthcare to education
To the road conditions.
to security for my family. The national budget is my business.
No, sister. It is our business. The national budget is everybody's business because it impacts every Jamaican. Visit the Ministry of Finance's website at mof.gov.jm for more information.
Ho, 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 ho. CVM presents a special broadcast of the Stella Maris Dance Ensemble's Holiday Showcase on Thursday, February 13th at 9:30 p.m. Stay tuned after the cut and corner office and wind down with more entertainment and fun. See it happen on Thursday, February 13th at 9:30 p.m. only on CVM.
Narrow and specific for things like that.
That's the minister in charge of works, Robert Morgan, in the, well, you know Robert Morgan, and the men in yellow beside him, Desmond McKenzie. To his right and to Desmond's left was the minister in charge of transport, Daryl Vaz, and I gather you were out in Portland earlier today. Was that the Spark or Reach program?
No, that was a bridge in a place called Craigmill that collapsed recently. I think it was on the news where a truck. It was closed, essentially.
And they removed the sign and traversed it.
They removed the sign, and the truck fell into the river. What Minister McKenzie and I announced today is an emergency bridge program for that bridge. We're going to start with a emergency footbridge, because what happened is, though we have a fording that we built, when the river is in spate, it's a danger to children coming from school, and nobody can cross. So we're starting with a footbridge like we did in Troy, and because we have announced, Desmond has announced an emergency bridge program, we can build that bridge in another couple months to give some respite to the people.
Hear you on that. I don't want you to leave the issue of the supervision and whether you're satisfied with what is being done in this patching segment of the roadworks, the Reach.
I think a lot of persons do not give credit for improvement. So, for example, we took a decision that if there's any debris left on the road, the contractor will not be paid, and we have stuck to that. So any contractor who has done a patching program and left debris on the side of the road, which we have seen, persons have sent us pictures, they have not been paid. Contractors who have left holes in the road, so they patch one section of the road and don't finish, they have not been paid. They have to go there and fix it. Contractors who have not cut out the road properly, because you're supposed to cut it with a machine so that it can hold the asphaltic concrete properly. Those have not been paid. They have to go and do it over. So there are a lot of accountability mechanisms within the patching program, especially the Reach program, because I have been out there. Agents of the ministry have been out there. Even the Prime Minister has been out there because we recognize how important it is. So a lot of improvements have taken place over the last several months in terms of the quality of work that is being done and in terms of the supervision, not just from me, because I am not an engineer. We have had members of the National Works Agency who have been out there as well, ensuring that we get value for money.
So is the taxpayer getting value for money based on what you've seen?
Yes, they are. There have been issues. I will be the first to admit that there have been issues where I have been dissatisfied, where I have had to call in the entity and say, listen, this cannot work. This has to be fixed. And I will say to you, it has been fixed. And what the most important thing for me is not that problems existed, but that the solutions were brought forward and implemented.
Our urban planner says there is this huge gap between the development that is happening in the built environment in this country and the policy that supports the development, roadwork policy. And I know you only took up this job in June last year, correct?
Yes.
June last year, yeah. But it is something to speak about, given the fast developing communities we have in this country, and your administration has taken the step of making Portmore into something much different from what it is, giving it parish status and so forth. So I want you to comment on what you have been doing on the policy front to ensure that attention is given to the roads running through the communities that you say you are working to develop to a first world standard.
So I don't accept that argument that policy is running behind development. I think policy and development are actually running together. What is running behind is implementation. So for example, we have a policy that we're going to expand the entrance to Portmore and Mandela Highway. That's a stated policy that's about 3 years old. There's a procurement process that has to take place.
So that we've been caught in 3 months or 3 years of procurement?
No, we have not been caught in 3 years of procurement. We have been caught in we plan, we make the policy, and then we start the implementation. So for example, the expansion of Mandela Highway into Portmore is a capital expenditure project. It has to go through the Public Investment and Accountability branch, which is a very involved process. Grange Lane was one of those. If you know, we're expanding Grange Lane. That went through the process. So it's not a case where, so we make the policy, but we have to also follow the rules for the implementation. We're building out significant high-rise buildings in Kingston. We're also importing a huge amount of cars in 2022-23. Between 2022 and 23, car imports increased by about 20%.
And your policy accounts for the increased traffic carriage on the roadways
which is why we expanded Constant Spring Road, which is why we fixed Barbican, which is why we fixed Hagley Park Road, which is why we expanded Mandela Highway. Those are examples of where policy and implementation are in line with development. It's not perfect, which is why, if you notice, we have announced the Port Antonio bypass. We have announced the Lucy bypass. We have announced the extension of the highway from Williamsfield all the way into St. Elizabeth.
And bypass coming from Obi.
Exactly. We have announced we're doing the perimeter road and so on. That is where policy and implementation are taking place. We know that there's going to be tremendous development in St. James. And Howard Cook Boulevard can in no way, even now, struggles to accommodate the traffic that comes from Trelawney and is trying to go to Hanover. So that's why the perimeter road exists. We know that Lucy is the next growth area. Lucy has no more space to expand the road, so we are going to do the Lucy bypass. Those are policies and those are being implemented. I think a lot of the persons who are critical and make statements about policy is that they ignore the other side of governance and government. That is not just the political organization which makes up the executive that determines how things manifest. It's also the public service. It's also people like them who are advisors and technocrats
and consultants. So you're saying that policy is not just the passage of a bill through the Houses of Parliament and the existence of a piece of legislation. The things that need to happen under the legislation, which then have to go through the procurement process, which TCI says we have to do because we're corrupt as a country. So you're saying those things are mistaken for policy not being conceptualized.
But the PIAB process is a part of implementation. So when we started Spark implementation in May of last year, people say that Spark started in December when the first road started. Spark didn't start in December. It started in May when we started the PIAB process and the process to get it approved. Let me give you another example, George. because of what has happened over the last year with roads, and even in Spark, where there's a war as to who owns the road. Parish council is saying that it's FIDEM road, and you have a private road, you have RADA road, you have NWA road, and the public doesn't really care who owns the road.
Who owns the road
the government has decided as policy that we need to look towards a one road authority. The distance in time between the Prime Minister stating that we need a one road authority that is responsible for the essentially accountability for all roads. Let's say Parish Council has some roads, NWA has some roads, but who stands up above all of them? Which is one way that the one road authority could work. And says, you didn't fix this road properly, we are regulating you, you need to be accountable. Between the Prime Minister making that statement and the policy paper being presented and the green paper being put in Parliament and the legislation is passed and the legislation is implemented, that will take some time. But the implementation of that policy doesn't happen when the law is passed, because we would have had to start a lot of processes within government to prepare for a one road authority. So a lot of persons, I think, need to look at the holistic picture. That how we govern ourselves is not just based on one side of the conversation. It's a whole myriad of other things.
So just run it by me again. You're saying that for stretches of roadway that motorists traverse daily, where sections are patched, holes are cut in other sections of the same roadway and not addressed, you're saying that that contractor gets no check?
No, and if you call me and tell me, they won't get paid. I can't see everything, right? But I've stated it here, and the Prime Minister has stated it. We have launched several facilities online, website, Spark Jamaica, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, where we ask the public, if you see work being done that is not to your satisfaction, if you see things being left on the road, the debris being left on the road when they dig up the road to patch it, we have said to our contractors, if you do not do the work properly, if you do not give us value for money, you will not be paid. I would say, thankfully, a majority of the contractors that we have engaged under the emergency patching program have done great work.
Quickly, what percentage of reach has been complete so far, island-wide?
I think we have gone about 70% of the normal reach.
Normal reach. And on Spark?
And
very early stages?
Spark is early. We're gone about 43 roads so far. By the 18th of February, it will increase to 43 plus another 42, that is 85. And then by the end of February, first week of March, we'll be at 126 roads. That's not the be-all and end-all. After that, we'll be having another work order. So these 126 roads, we know that we're going to finish them by June. And then between March and June, another set of roads would have started.
So those MPs who have been making noise about not seeing bad roads in their constituency listed on the Spark website, they need not fret, because the next work order could include new additional roads on that list.
So every constituency in Jamaica by the first week of March will have 2 roads in Spark. And after we're finished with this work order, which is 126 roads, there'll be another set of roads that are going to be announced, which means that we start the cycle again, whereby, let's say, June, July, 200 and let's say 52 roads will be... Right, so 252. So each constituency would have 4 roads. Right, so, and that is going to be by June, July, August, thereabout. So we're working, remember, George, getting a Spark road done is not a simple thing. Many of our roads were never designed. Many of our roads evolved naturally out of communities that people built up, and an MP come in and say, okay, I'm going to give you a road, and they cut a road. There was no water line works, there was no alignment to ensure that the corners were not too whatever. Spark is changing that. Every road that we are building has to be designed. We have to contemplate water, we have to contemplate telecommunications. We also have to contemplate whether the road needs to be widened, so we might have to buy some of your land. So those are some of the intricacies in the Spark program.
Hear you on that. That's all the time we have. And just like that, the series ends. The minister closed the show. He says, look, policy is not running behind the development. A lot of the things that you see that you don't acknowledge as policy is the evidence of